Graffiti has long been part of the landscape of communities. We can look to the ancient Egyptian hieroglyphics etched across walls and pyramids and buildings as part of an artistic history considered art by the museums. These masterpieces have been given permission to exist on these buildings. Is today's graffiti landscape art, or is it vandalism?
Very good.
Legislation is binding on the tools and scope of the graffiti artist's ability to produce a product.
Yeah.
Graffiti sucks like deep throat. Art is trash. So Mike, tell me a little bit about the Spanish graffiti culture.
Spanish graffiti culture. Well, we kind of define Barcelona's style. Graffiti and street art is happy, bright, colorful. It's fun art. Sometimes a little bit childlike, a little bit naive. You get a lot of fun illustrations, little characters like that, bright colors. Happy, bright, and colorful, fun art. There's really well-known street artists. I mean, here in Barcelona, we've got artists like El Pez, the one-eyed smiley fish, who's now kind of gaining popularity the world over. He's getting really well-known. Artists like B-Toy. I know she's been getting really popular over the last few years. Amazing stenciling work. Francisco de Pájaro. He works in the streets by sculpting trash. He collects garbage and he paints on the garbage, and then he makes characters out of the garbage. And when he's done, he walks away from the installation, and it lasts for 2 or 3 hours until the trash guys come and take it away. But this guy, in the last, he's traveled more in the last year and a half than I have in the last 5 years, and he's been able to do that off of his art. So he's really becoming very popular right now. Sisha Perada is an artist that is getting invited to paint places all over the world. So there's definitely some names coming out of Barcelona. There's no Banksy, but I guess there's only one Banksy.
And just tell me a little bit about the art itself. Is there I know there's tagging, and then there's more sort of mural type art. How does that fit within particularly this area?
Here in Barcelona, I mean, we have all sorts of art in the streets. There's kind of what I like to call the traditional graffiti, tagging, throw-ups, pieces, burners, pieces like that. There's posters, stickers. There's guys doing stenciling. There's a lot of the artists here in Barcelona seem like 20, 30, 40 years ago, they'd still be artists, they'd still be illustrators, but they'd be doing things in their home or their studio. Now, at least here in Barcelona, these artists are still doing that, but they're also putting their art up in the street now. And why not? As an artist, you'd want people to see your art, and what better place than in the street for people to see your art?
Whilst living as a local in Barcelona, I became aware of the African trolley collectors. They rummage for steel offcuts through the day and lock their trolleys up on the streets at night. They are working class men who have a visible presence in the streets. The stencils that depict them are a testimony to their place in the cultural landscape of Barcelona, A badge of honour, if you will, forever etched on the street walls.
To your name, it is good to praise you, Lord, to make music to your name, to sing of your love in the morning, to tell of your deeds in the evening, to sing of your love in the morning, tell of your deeds in the evening.
It is important to look at the ethics of our cultural understandings of graffiti art and its relationship to society, and to also process the relationship modern-day graffiti has in communicating messages to a community within the boundaries of its own legislation. That legislation governs issues of cost analysis due to vandalism and graffiti cleanup. The graffiti environment can produce a turf war amongst its citizens. There are also issues of crime control and youth intervention and mentorship.
To your name, it is good. Praise you, Lord, to make music to your name, to sing of your love in the morning, to tell of your deeds in the evening, to sing of
Well, Barcelona street art kind of starting out after the death of General Franco. After Franco dies in the years that followed, kind of a bit of a cultural renaissance going on in Spain and especially in Barcelona. People started playing music in the streets and people started painting in the streets. And even though there were kind of laws against the graffiti at the time, it was a lot of times these laws were ignored. The general public didn't seem to mind seeing people painting in the streets, and police would usually turn a blind eye. So it was a very cool thing for the artists that were living here at the time, as well as artists from all over the world kind of started hearing about Barcelona and the freedom that they had to paint in the streets here. And by about 1999, with a lot of influences from the street art graffiti scenes in other cities like Philadelphia, New York, Paris, and especially with the emergence of hip-hop music and the culture that surrounds hip-hop music, Barcelona kind of took these outside influences and became inspired to become the street art graffiti capital of the world. Now this was obviously an unofficial title that was kind of held here in Barcelona from around 1999 until about 2005. In 2005, that's when tourism in Barcelona really starts to blow up. It really starts to go crazy. And naturally, with all this tourism, you've got a lot of big businesses coming into town. We start putting some pressure on the local city council to kind of clean up the image of the city, make it more tourist friendly. Very similar to what Mayor Rudy Giuliani did in New York City. You remove the graffiti and all of a sudden people start feeling safe. So that kind of started happening in Barcelona, and they started to remove some of the really great street art graffiti pieces from the city walls. They started to increase the fines for painting in the streets. So now, unfortunately, it doesn't seem as good as it was, 15, 20 years ago, but it still remains, a really hot destination for artists to travel to the city and to paint in this city.
To deconstruct and understand the graffiti culture with all its nuances within the context of a small community like Barcelona might construct a wider global phenomenon, impacting not just the art world, but societies for good or bad. It's very interesting to identify the different variables of the aesthetics of graffiti art. There's always been a stakeholder belief system and ideas and perceptions around graffiti culture and its relationship with society. Legislative changes and societal attitudes are differing. It'll be interesting to see how Barcelona deals with these issues. There are always changing variables with the research into graffiti. Graffiti is transient by nature, here today and gone tomorrow. Determinations are intrinsically linked to the social, political and economic context in which they occur. In the graffiti culture, how do we identify indicators or nuances across global divides? Is there a possibility of presenting signifiers of diagnostic evidence through photo images of cultural differences or even cultural normalities in different communities through graffiti art? So, tell me about your
That's the
Your
process.
shop.
You give that piece and the different artists.
yes,
It's recycled canvas from tracks,
yes.
and the artists draw one by one. It's especially in waterproof and washable, and all our unique pieces. With that piece, we make directly the back.
Little bags,
Yeah.
and which you sell.
These ones are simple.
Oh wow, gee, that's really cool. Hang on.
And recycle this back inside.
Wow. And so each of these bags are individual graffiti.
Yeah.
Yeah, 35 different artists working in the project.
How many?
35.
35? And how long has this been going on for?
We make back 30 years. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Because graffiti's really got a place in Barcelona, hasn't it? They're like the new Picassos, don't you think? What do you reckon?
Yeah, some artists that work with us is famous artists. Lolo, for example. It's people around the world. It's Argentina.
Stuff. And do they get a commission, do they, when you sell it?
Yeah, take a commission. It's a 10% of the bag.
10%.
Taking at the artist, and the other is the workers.
Oh, yes. And this is your...
Graffiti artists operate under a nom de plume, an assumed name. This is used by a writer instead of their real name. It's like a pen name, a pseudonym.
This is a bike seat.
Because Spain love their bicycles, don't they? I've just rented one.
It's the same. The artist draw only one, not print, not copies.
Oh, okay.
It's a one of a kind, and you can use not fake. You put in the material.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and all the bags. You can use on the bicycle too.
Ah, I love it. Well, thank you very much. And how many are in the cooperative? How many artists do you have?
35 or more now. The family grow every year. More artists working.
If someone was an artist up and coming, how could they get their stuff on your bag?
Normally, the artist send us a mail. We check the art, and if we are interested and think that it's
You like it?
yeah.
Then you put it on the
Yeah.
bag.
But the artist, it's a special process because we make this ink. It's a special ink,
Yes,
and the artist need to work with this ink and this material.
yes.
We send the material, the artist will come back the material and make
Okay. And there's a lot of really cool graffiti artists here too. And it's called Pinzat?
pizza.
Ah, Pin. Well, thank you very much.
Okay.
New sound is coming. A new sound falling.
Graffiti art can transform the neighbourhood. It can begin a beautification movement around colour and art. Communities embracing change and committing to help the idea of beautification in poor communities. An exploration of the graffiti culture is important to today's society because of the language spoken through their art form. Anthropologist Nowinski has made a distinction between a context of situation and context of culture as frames for understanding language. Context of situation is what an observer needs to know about the immediate situation in order to understand a particular instance of language. Context of culture is what an observer needs to know about the broader culture in order to understand the meaning of what is being said or written. In the graffiti culture, how do we identify indicators or nuances across global divides? Is there a possibility of presenting signifiers of diagnostic evidence through photo images of cultural differences or even cultural normalities in different communities through graffiti art? During social movements, graffiti can be recorded, giving great insight into the restlessness and civil demonstrations that can occur to shape even the Spanish culture. It can represent the concerns and priorities of ordinary Spanish citizens, and particularly around the poor state of the economy. My journey into the poorer suburbs or red light districts gave me mural messages. In dialogue with sex workers, I was directed to this mural. The neighbourhood is watching the authorities to keep them accountable. This is a mural depicting the death of a prominent and respected gay man, killed by the police. This event was witnessed and recorded with a mobile phone. This significant event galvanised the community to bring justice to their neighbourhood. The graffiti mural etched on the concrete walls of this neighbourhood speaks also of the memory of this event, etched on the minds of the community. The message might just be as simple as, "We are watching." This graffiti wall also speaks about returning the streets back to the community and letting its own artists have self-expression or even vent frustration. Riding my push bike around the streets of Spain, I often thought back to the northern rivers in Australia. I often thought about the mural walls that adorned our own walls. Byron Bay, Lismore, Back Alley, Moorlambar, they all were part of my thought process. The government has provided graffiti wall space. A graffiti artist needs to register. When they register, they can come to a graffiti wall at any time they like and create a mural, create an art piece, almost like a gift to the community. It costs them for the paint, for the time. They tend to turn up completely anonymously, without the fanfare. They do the work. The community appreciates it, and they often gather crowds. It's a day to be free, to paint within their communities. It's a wonderful opportunity, not just for the graffiti artist, but for the local community to gather, to rest, to watch, to communicate, to get to know one another.
This kaleidoscope of murals was mesmerising to me. Public spaces giving graffiti artists an outlet for their talents and personal expressions of thematic stories. Standing alongside the Picasso Museum and the Gaudi architecture was an expression of altruistic artistry to engage a community, giving pleasure to the young skateboarders as well as the retired old folk. Park benches had now become viewing spaces for a cultural and community engagement with the graffiti artists themselves. No thought of corporate capitalism or selfish egotism on display at these graffiti boards. I was on a quest in Spain to find the graffiti dome. Where was this dome? Would I find it? I was feeling more and more empowered the closer I felt I was getting to the church that had the graffiti dome.
In my voice, out of the cage of fear, I won't be silent, I won't be silent, I won't be silent, I will not be silent. I will not be silent, 'cause love is the key.
And then there they were, the steps to the church. I had arrived. The church doors were locked. I went round the side, entered the confessional, repented of all my sins, opened the door, and there I was, inside the church. The confessional had led me to be inside the church.
At Hospitalet near Barcelona, a priest let a bunch of graffiti artists go to town on his church, specifically on the dome ceiling above the main altar. You know the space Michelangelo liked to paint? The St. Eulalia church is neo-Romanistic in design, with a Catalan twist. Inside it's austere. The walls are painted nondescript colours. The statues of Jesus, the Virgin Mary and the saints are simple. To compensate, Father Ramon Bohr decided to make the main dome a little different. In the antechamber of the church on a recent evening, he recalled how he came upon the idea last year surfing the web. He said to himself, why not graffiti? Even though the press is scandalised by graffiti artists, he said, for me graffiti is just another artistic technique. The result is a spectacular splash of colours, rich blues, bright reds and greens, on the rounding ceiling dominating the main sanctuary. But don't think street art. In fact, the style of painting is faithfully Romanesque, with static two-dimensional renderings of Saint Eulalia, the Virgin and baby Jesus, and the congregation. boss says he sent his 2 young graffiti artists to school before he let them near the place. I told them they couldn't start until they visited a museum in Barcelona to study the Romanesque style I was interested in, he said. So they went and studied, even took out some books. Only after that could the project come together.
This wonderful graffiti was painted by an artist named House. House lives 3-4 hours outside of Barcelona.
Hi, this is hello to Spread Global. I'm House from Madrid. Llevo pintando graffiti desde el 90-91 y bueno, esto es un poco what we do, lo que hacemos, ¿no? I started painting graffiti in 1991 in Madrid, and now I'm living in Alicante, Torrevieja, in Spain, in the coast, East Coast. I used to paint graffiti with my friends in the free time, and very vinculated to hip hop culture since ever, and I used to do, I don't know, a lot of things, painting canvases, drawing at home.
Yo, mi habilidad lírica limita las típicas rítmicas malas. Mi habilidad para debilitar arriba sin quitar la mirada. Que sin competitividad hoy van a eliminar al rival porque han venido a eliminar su líquida cagada. Yo te voy a chupitar pero te dejo de aquí, te voy a cantar pero te dejo de aquí. No me lo miento las cosas porque no me va a entender, me da igual a mí. Tantos con su clac clac clac. ¿Cuántos van limpiando? Yo los mando para el bla bla car. Llama.
One two, dale vieja crimen, voy, dice Skinny Vanilli, ya es clase como las Tare. Dale, vuelve de por el mami. Pasa la mandanga como dijo el Fari. Smoking green high, cuando voy con Mari, oh, pilla mi lastra. No fast rap, la hago con fat cap. Apartas tiros a la carta, Y esos cabrones van de jeans. Vengo conmigo, su chico, no te fíes, piso con los pies.
Yo, 0380, Toledo, Torrevieja, vuelta por el charco, hermanito. Dice, debo de valer.
Mira la cámara.
No queramos si está esto potable. Comete mi polla y lájate de aquí lo antes posible.
Gracias!
And you,
Yeah, I draw since I was a small child. I draw since I can record. I started painting graffiti when I was 11 years old. I started painting graffiti in the streets and I never stopped. It was a very good experience. The press called to a friend of mine, and we went to Barcelona to paint a dome, and it was a strange thing for a graffiti writer. It's not very normal, but it was very good experience. Dome and I like it a lot. A lot of televisions and everything came there to film it. But aparte de eso, was very good for us, for the soul and everything. I think it's good. I'm not religious, man, but I think it's very good.
experience doing your graffiti at the police station.
It was like commissioned work. Police wanted to do something inside of the police station, so they didn't want to pay, but we had a lot of cams just for the very quick, in 20 minutes thing, you know, so we did. Inside of the police station it's strange because we have to run a lot when they come, a lot of years running, and now, hey, you paint inside of the police station, okay, we do. We paint one sheet and we paint it quickly, and we go.
Deciros un poco aquí para la peña al otro lado del charco. Yo.
The New South Wales government in 2012 released the Graffiti Legislative Amendment Bill of 2012. This is an Australian legislative bill that was passed by both Houses of Parliament in 2012. This is an amendment that makes further provision with respect to the punishment of graffiti offences and removal or obliteration of graffiti and for other purposes. To cut the act short, it basically gives the government the ability to suspend a person's driver's licence if caught doing illegal graffiti. It's a 13-page amendment. It's hard to look at and to deconstruct in my mind and marry it up to the film over the overall messages are clear about graffiti culture and society attitudes. It does beg the question, were any graffiti artists who work within legal guidelines consulted in the process of the passing of this legislation? This is a very serious amendment. Graffiti art can transform the neighbourhood. It can begin a beautification movement around colour and art. Communities embracing change and committing to help the idea of beautification in poor communities.
When they heard it, they began to go out one by one, beginning with the older ones, and he was left alone.
Your mother. Yeah. Your mama. This is House's favourite graffiti and keeps the fire going. There is a recklessness with graffiti artists in Spain. Spanish police have just recently smashed a graffiti gang. 10 graffiti artists have been arrested on suspicion of being members of a gang that forced trains to suddenly halt so they could paint over carriages. Spanish police have said they had smashed a guerrilla-style graffiti gang that forced trains to a sudden halt to paint over carriages. 10 people aged between 21 and 27 were arrested on suspicion of belonging to the gang. The group would stop trains by pulling their security levers and paint up to 50 square metres of carriage in just a few minutes, a police statement has said. The action produces a sudden and violent braking of the train, generating the risk of falls and injuries to public transport users, and it disrupts the normal circulation of trains, causing delays and service cuts, the statement said. 3 years of investigation have allowed us to dismantle this graffiti gang, one of the most active in the entire country. The group filmed their activities and posted the videos on social media sites. Police said the suspects began operating as a solo graffiti artist, but later joined forces to form the gang. There is a combative juxtaposition between council, commercial businesses, and also graffiti artists. One case in point is where Barcelona shopkeepers believed they were beautifying their city when they commissioned graffiti artists to paint the shutters, protecting their shop fronts rather than leaving them to be defaced by vandals. But now they face being fined up to €510 by city authorities intent on cracking down on antisocial behaviour. The council says the artist's graffiti degrades the urban fabric, as much as washing hung from balconies, and have fined more than 160 businesses this year. The law regards graffiti as something that soils the public space, devalues our heritage, and visually degrades the urban fabric, a city spokesman said. The groups behind the schemes to paint over the steel security barriers say they are oversubscribed from businesses who want to prevent scribbled spray-painted signatures or tags that are epidemic in the city. Taggers respect the art and do not paint over it. A company called Free Roller Blinds says it has over 250 orders outstanding and a play on roll up and have fun. It says it is struggling to keep up with the demand. In one weekend, they painted 47 blinds in the Gracia district. Jordi Lalobel, the group's founder, said its mission was to encourage the best art. The shopkeepers can visit our website and see the work of various artists and choose the one that is most to their taste, he added. Just as in Australia in the Northern Rivers, tagging still is a problem. Rather than being caught painting a mural, graffiti artists opt for a quick scribble and a run. There will always be something anarchic about graffiti because it is essentially about freedom, Lalobel says. But unless you want to get caught, you will paint in places where it is legal to do so. He goes on to say also, it's a big contradiction that they won't let us paint in public spaces, even with the owner's permission, when the same council mounts expensive exhibitions about graffiti in art galleries.
Yes, okay. Yo vengo de una estirpe ya casi extinguida. Vieja escuela le llamaban sí que nos definan. Yo ya he pasado por todo y vi desde ahí arriba cuando todo era oro y ya ni pa' comida. He pasado por muchos grupos como tú y tú y tú y muchos malos rollos codificados como en el Plus Booth. Toyaco siempre ha habido y les ha ido deluxe, pero han sobrevivido como el vino y el mousse. Pierdes el loop en la próxima parada. Nadie está interesado en tus nuevas parrafadas. A mí me sudará lo que digan desmarcada. La diferencia entre tú y yo es que yo no salgo en portadas compradas. ¿Y eso qué? Very good.
I'm not a tourist, I'm a traveller. The things that I haven't learnt in the universities of the world, the things that I couldn't learn in these universities, I've learnt being in Spain at the graffiti murals, with the graffiti culture. This has been my learning curve. I found my graffiti mural, my place of contemplation. Death was never far from me. I looked at this mural with new eyes. I contemplated death, demons, hurt, pain, suffering. I found my place. I found my mural.
As I sat in the field, as I contemplated death and life, I was only reminded of the battle in heaven, of the spiritual awakening even in my own heart. I contemplated surrender and demonic forces. This was a moment of revelation. I drew upon the great scriptures of old.
The child that's on cocaine, through prayer he can change. That marriage that's on the verge of breaking up, although sometimes you have to walk. Oh no. Now you ask yourself, is every word from the Lord? Oh, from the Lord. You need a blessing, and you need it right away. God is concerned, and He's working it out for you. Yeah. No peace.
Satan is bound. Then I saw an angel coming down from heaven, having the key to the bottomless pit and a great chain in his hand. He laid hold of the dragon, that serpent of old, who is the devil and Satan, and bound him for 1,000 years. And he cast him into the bottomless pit, and shut him up, and set a seal on him, so that he should deceive the nations no more, till the 1,000 years were finished. New heaven and earth are created. And I saw a new heaven and a new earth, for the first heaven and the first earth had passed away. Also there was no more sea. And I heard a loud voice from heaven saying, Behold, the tabernacle of God is with men, and he will dwell with them, and they shall be his people, and God himself will be with them, and be their God. And God will wipe away every tear from their eyes. There shall be no more death, nor sorrow, nor crying. There shall be no more pain, for the former things have passed away. Then he who sat on the throne said, Behold, I make all things new. And he said to me, Write, for these words are true and faithful. And he said to me, It is done. I am the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end. I will give of the fountain of water of life freely to him who thirsts.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, yeah, but now I'm found. I was blind,